Hey everyone, welcome back to the railroad. The Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO Scale. My name is Darrell Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for the second episode of season 2023. This episode features work done in a number of different places. One is work done right here at the UTLX Repair facility. There is also some major work or important work done at the engine facilities at the Evanston Yard, and then also some work on the Westvaco area, mostly planning there, but I did put down some cork. And lastly, been doing some work on signaling, and trying to get the last of the signals put together. And I did make a major change in the engine facilities. This is how it looked originally, and I was trying to figure out how I could fit the engine house at the end here. And I was going to curve the track around and then fit the engine facilities here, and wasn't really making much progress. I'm sure I could have got it in there somehow, but a viewer and subscriber of the channel made a comment and used the word, how about a jog? So the jog jogged my mind and made a lot of sense, just to jog the bench work out a little bit so that I can make it a straight shot. As you can see, I have plenty of room here. It's not like we're short on space. Lots of room here. I can reach the back here pretty easily. So I'm thinking I should be able to jog this out, and if I did so, then I could have this engine track, or the engine tracks for the engine facility, just come straight out from that turnout and not have the curve at all. And I think it would bring it out so that it wouldn't. Here's how it would have been. It would have blocked the view of the turnout. So I think it's going to be moved away from that. It's going to be much, much better. So I took the fascia off, and fascia does kind of hold its shape, by the way, when you have it in place for a while. But anyway, I took the fascia off, and I had a 1x4 left over that I hadn't used yet. So I laid it out there, trying to figure out, okay, how long does this need to be to extend it out? And basically, I'm just going to kind of redo the bench work and see if I can't get this out. The most that it comes out is about 12 inches. And you can see I'm kind of figuring out how I could best secure everything and get it exactly how it needs to be. What I want to do is come straight out of this turnout, the right side there, just have the tracks go straight from the turnout. And like straight towards that coffee cup, and the coffee cup would be where the engine facility would be. And with that board there, I can still reach the back track of both of these tracks. So I think right where I had it was going to work out pretty good. And I'm using the coffee cup here to kind of demonstrate. This is where it would have been, and I think this is where it's going to be as far as the engine house blocking the view of the turnouts. Okay, so that's definitely, I can't remember the name of the viewer. I'm going to try and put it on the screen. So shout out to the viewer who commented about jogging out the bench work. It's exactly what I did. So I did secure the 1x4 in place. I basically screwed it to the fascia and also to another area there. And I put some blocks there because I wanted the plywood to fit flush. So then I carefully cut a piece of plywood. It wasn't exactly a very square or even shape. It's kind of odd shape, so did a lot of tracing and so forth to get it to fit in there, but I did get it to fit. And instead of the engine house being there, it's going to be basically where the sheet of paper is there. Okay, so it's going to come straight out and then where the paper is, that's where the engine house is going to be. So no curved tracks for the engine facilities. I'm so happy to be able to make this change. It's going to be a huge, huge improvement over what I had originally planned. I couldn't get any cork road beds, so I guess there's a shortage right now. So instead of buying some more cork road bed for the change, I basically shaved up the existing cork road bed and reused it. So I had a chisel that I used to scrape it up. Came off pretty good. I saved all of it. Didn't really waste any of it at all. And then I used some chalk lines to go straight out of that turnout. And I was able to get that all set. Now, this is not a disaster here with the cars over here. We're kind of changing speeds or changing topics here. I also did some work on planning out the Westvaco trackage. So I kind of laid things out with some paper turnouts. This is what I ended up with for the cork road bed for the Westvaco era. So there's going to be a 2-track siding. So it's going to be coming off the main line here. Then there'll be a turnout right there, and there'll be 2 tracks. There'll be loads in one track, empties in the other track. So when a train comes by here, it's just going to use those 2 tracks to drop off loads and pick up empties. Then the third tracks, 3rd, 4th, and 5th tracks here are going to be stub and yards. And that first one there is going to be the track that's going to be used for loading. The track's going to come out to the end of the cork there. So there'll probably be about 8 cars or so that can go on each of those tracks. And part of the job, if you're working on Westvaco, here I am getting on my, this is at eye level. But I am going to build a platform that's going to be about this high. So this is where the operators are going to be. So you got 2 tracks there for loads in and empties out, and 1 track for actually using the flood loader to load trona onto the covered hoppers, and then 2 tracks for storage. There may be some other loading facilities for those 2 tracks. Also, I'm going to try and incorporate oil shale so I can have some tank cars here. Also, there will be a drill track. So there will be a locomotive here, probably an MP15 of some sort. This is how far the drill track will go, about out to here. So it should be able to pull all the cars out and do switching. So there's going to be a locomotive that's going to be here, and it would be responsible for pulling cars through the flood loader, moving empties and loads back and forth from storage, getting things ready for trains that are coming by and dropping off and picking up, and then taking those cars and putting them where they need to be. So it should be some interesting operations. This is UTLX. I did put in a turnout to come off the main line. You can see the drop off here from the main line then down to the UTLX secondary track here. First thing coming off of here is going to be 2 turnouts to go into the 3-track yard. So there's going to be 3 tracks. Here you can see not sure what I was doing there. Here's a couple of turnouts that I built. I put them together so that I could lay out exactly where the ties are supposed to go. But there's going to be a 3-track yard there to hold up to 5 cars in each track, and then there's going to be some storage tracks. It's also going to have its own switcher at UTLX that's going to be doing some switching there. So there'll be some interesting operations also at UTLX. All right, here we are back at the engine facilities. This is how it turned out with the rearrangement of the track. As you can see, it just is a straight shot. So right where the locomotives are right now is going to be a fueling station. It's going to be a place to fuel the locomotives up and get water, do any routine maintenance, and so on. So this will be a service area here, and then back where that paper is, that's where the engine house is going to be. So it won't be any curves. It's all going to fit, I think, pretty nicely. And we have the SD40 ends go into the engine tracks, and we'll pull out a couple of SD70s. Going to be using SD40 ends and SD70s mainly for locals and switching the Evanston Yard. Some MP15s. Going to pick up a couple of those. They won't be Union Pacific. There'll be probably some Helm leasing or FURX leasing. Atlas, I think, is going to be coming out with some of those in a few weeks. I'm going to pick up a couple of those for UTLX and also for the Westvaco area. Going to be sharing a little bit more about operations at the Evanston Yard next week. Hopefully be able to get some last things done here. I am pretty close to having the Evanston Yard pretty well done. You can tell I need to file this switch down a little bit. It's a little rough going through there. Now you notice I do have some signals in here. That's one of the things I needed to do yet at the Evanston Yard is put in some signaling. And my good friend Chris Zuzeski has been helping me with that. So you can see there was a dwarf signal there. And it will either be red or flashing red. Red if it needs to stop, flashing red if it is able to go through in restricted speed. And then these two signals here, the one on the left will be to give signal indications for trains departing the yard here. So if it's just a switcher, the top signal will be red or flashing red. If it's flashing red, when the yard crew is just working, both the dwarf signal and the top signal here will be flashing red. And then to pull onto the main line with the local or with switchers, it would be the lower signal head that will give clearance to go onto the main. The signal on the right is for the main line. So if you have a train coming out, it would make sure that trains would stop there to allow the train to come out of the yard. So this would be like a control point here. The dispatcher will have control of the yard part of that control point, but when the yard crew is just working in the yard, the dispatcher will kind of give that over to them, and we'll just have the dwarf and the top signal head use flashing red as the yard crew goes back and forth across that control point. I'm not really sure exactly how we're going to be doing the UTLX. I think the Evanston Yard crew may come out and switch the UTLX area, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these two locomotives out, and we're going to go ahead and pick up some tank cars. So I was able to get 3 turnouts done here at the UTLX, the one coming off the main line and then 2 that divide into the 3 tracks. There will be another 2 on the other end, and then some more turnouts for the storage tracks into the repair facilities. Now there's not going to be a control point here at this turnout, but this turnout will be locked by the dispatcher. The road crew would have to be able to get permission from the dispatcher, who would then unlock the turnout so that the road crew can go ahead and throw the turnout and go into the UTLX repair facility. Here you can kind of see how the track's going to be laid out. They do have the 3-track yard there. Have 5 cars on 2 of the tracks, 3 or 4 in the middle track. So it'll hold about 13 cars. I'll give it a little bit of help here. So the 3 tracks there, I still need some road bed there. That's where the repair facility is going to be, where those 3 tracks are. And there'll be some more turnouts here and then a drill track. So the locomotive that's doing the switching here will use that drill track. It's kind of cool the way this is laid out, so that there can be some pretty extensive switching operations taking place here without fouling the main. Either done by the switchers coming from Evanston Yard or by the on-site switcher. And then either the Evanston Yard switcher crew will come out here and switch, take repaired cars out of the yard and drop off cars needing to be repaired, or it might be some locals going through this area that would also be dropping off and picking up cars, or it could be both. But we went ahead and picked up these 5 cars, and we'll go ahead and take them back to Evanston. Now you can see the difference in elevations. That's why I didn't just simply extend the drill track from Evanston Yard. And I kind of wanted to have it be available for mainline trains to be able to drop off and pick up also. But this is a mountain railroad, so that is a 1% grade, which ends up being about 1.5 inches over 10, 12 feet. I don't have these signals lit up yet, but if I did, the top would be red and the bottom would be a flashing red, which would give restricted permission for the locomotives with their tank cars to come into the yard. The dwarf now would be red, as would the westbound mainline signals and the yard signals. So that's a very rudimentary operations, what it's actually going to be like. It's going to be a lot more involved once all the tracks get in and we get things ramped up. So I'm pretty happy with the way this has turned out. I also put in some signals here. It's going to be the same type of deal. This is going to be like a little extension of the control point from the main line. Signal there, and then a dwarf signal on this side. And then the control point signals for coming off the main line. I don't think I'm going to add 2 more turnouts here. I think I'm just going to leave the turnouts the way they are. I'm going to move the signal bridge, I think, back. I'm going to have a couple more operating sessions first before I decide for certain. But I think I am going to move that back. One last thing I did get these printed out. You may have seen them last week. It's just on paper right now. I figure I will need to paint the fascia yet. Once I get it painted, then I'll put something more permanent down in color and laminated and so forth. By the way, this fascia here is not going to be white. Some people have asked about that. It just is right now. Bulls are the Buffalo's beating New England right now, unfortunately. Chiefs won, though. Number 1 seed. What can I say? Here's another printout. So that's pretty much what I did. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great week. Take care, everyone.